Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. On today's episode of me talking about 7 things, I'm going to be going over the season 19 episode Alone and Terrified. Now before I continue, please check out the links in the description below. I highly recommend checking out the surveys, and I'm recently redoing the redemption survey that I did a little bit ago, but I'm redoing it, and feel free to check that out if you haven't already. And feel free to share the links as well. Now, on to the episode. We start at day 4, and Tyler is having difficulty sleeping. We flash back and we meet Tyler in Botswana, and he mentions needing a strong mental game, and his starting PSR is a 7.2. He also mentions he is a workhorse and he wants to make sure to make his partner as comfortable as possible, even at the detriment to himself. And when he's being inserted, he only spots one bag, which is a first for a 2-person challenge, and he has a bow and arrows, a pot and fire starter, and a map, but no partner, which is very interesting and never been done before. He checks out the map and begins trekking to the water source that's a few miles away. And during his trek, with about 2 hours of sunlight left, he decides to stop and make camp about 1.3 miles away from the water source. He gets a fire going before gathering branches with acacia thorns to make his boma. He mentions needing water as soon as possible, and that night he hears animal sounds in the distance and believes the sounds to be coming from African wild dogs. Day 2, Tyler mentions he's had no sleep and begins the rest of his trek to the water source. He manages to get water, then finds a spot to make a boma, and then he hears a noise and he spots his partner Holly, who we see in a flashback being inserted into the challenge. I also wanted to mention she's Australian, and her insertion section is a lot shorter than Tyler's, and Holly's survival tool is a machete, and she was also given a pot. I also believe she was given a fire starter, but I don't think she mentioned that, but I believe she got a fire starter because she already had water and Tyler was able to rehydrate. And Holly's starting PSR is a 7.2. The two get to work making their shelter. Holly begins not feeling well and decides to take a rest, where she unfortunately gets nauseous and loses her lunch. Tyler brings her some water so she can rehydrate and continues working on the boma. Holly's PSR drops from 7.2 to 7.0. It begins downpouring and they try to take cover from the rain and the high winds, and Tyler tries to maintain the fire. Unfortunately, the rain and high winds continue for a while and their fire goes out. Then Tyler tries to use his body to cover Holly so she can get a little bit of cover from the rain and high winds and stay warm. Night 2, the rain has stopped and they get their fire back, but the bugs arrive and Tyler can't fall asleep. Night 3, Tyler still can't sleep, and day 4, he mentions not being able to sleep for 3 days. He has a chat with Holly and mentions having PTSD and intrusive thoughts. She gives him a pep talk to try and help him and tells him to get some rest. And Holly does some camp chores and begins work on a raised platform bed to try and get Tyler some comfort. Night 4, and Tyler still can't sleep. Day 5, the bugs kept Tyler up at night again, and he talks about not being able to sleep again. And he then decides to leave the challenge, citing safety concerns and wanting to make sure Holly is safe. So he decides to leave, and this makes the 4th tap out of the season, all of which being of male survivalists, which is unfortunate. And his PSR drops from 7.2 to 6.3. Holly is determined to make it through on her own, and I think she will. And I made that note before I saw the end of the episode, so we shall see what happens. That night, she is awake because of the bugs. Day 6, and Holly wants to focus on food and begin setting up different traps. Day 7, she checks her traps, and unfortunately, there's no protein. I wanted to say a few times that she said the audacity, like, there's no bird in this trap, the audacity, and I thought that was funny, and I enjoyed her charisma. Day 9, there is still nothing in her traps, but she stays determined. Day 11, 12, and 13, she still hasn't found anything in her traps, and it's noted that she's had 0 calories in the first 11 days of the challenge. Day 14, she fortunately finds an unalive spring hare that seems to have been attacked by something, and she processes and cooks the hare and gets some necessary protein, and her PSR rises from 7.0 to 7.1. Holly talks about her late partner Paul, who passed away from a snake attack, and she talks about how he taught her a lot, and she is very sad about his passing. And I think that Holly has a lot of grit and mental fortitude. Night 16, 17, and 18, Holly is being eaten up by bugs. Day 19, we see the results of the bug bites. Day 20, Holly mentions she's exhausted and she goes to check on her traps to see if she can get some last minute food before extraction. And then we see her walking up to something, and then we get a commercial break and we see the survival kit segment where she makes a outfit using the pelt from the hair that she got, plus she makes herself a grass skirt using weaving techniques. And after the commercial break, she finds a bird that seems to have been caught in one of her traps. She manages to get some necessary food before extraction, which is really good, and her PSR rises from 7.1 to 7.3. Day 21, and it is extraction day. She hikes 5.2 miles and successfully completes the challenge. She lost 18 pounds and her PSR rises from 7.2 to 7.5. She thanks Paul for helping teach her survival skills. It's just a really nice moment, and I'm happy for Holly that she made it through this challenge. And I thought that the one day alone was an interesting twist where each survivalist spent the first night alone. And so I thought that was interesting, but I think that that should be saved for maybe a 2 hour episode so we could see both the survivalists by themselves, because a lot of time was taken up by this twist. And so maybe for 2 hour episodes, but oh well. And at least it gave us some extra footage of Tyler since he unfortunately tapped early from the challenge. So I guess that's a positive. And I also wanted to note that the narrator said that after 4 days he tapped from the challenge. I wasn't worried about Holly at all. She did an amazing job and I'm hoping to see her back. And it was also mentioned on social media how there seemed to be some watermelons in the background at one point, and Tyler said in a comment that they were soma melons and they were extremely bitter, and they tried to boil them, but it couldn't really get rid of the bitterness. And the soma melons were found around day 1. And it's really unfortunate that Tyler tapped from the challenge. Mental health is very important, and it's really sad to see him go and to see 4 tap outs this season. And hopefully we can see Tyler return in the future, but we shall see. Thank you all so much for listening. And next week we have Ranger in Danger. A South African ranger and a Texan wilderness guide set out to prove they can survive 21 days in a remote Thai jungle where relentless monsoons, failed traps, and a face-off with a king cobra drive them to the edge. Please like, comment nice things, and subscribe, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye-bye.